Podcasting from Portland East to Portland West, from Big Pine Key to Pacific Beach, and from San Juan to Guam. This is All Across America. All right, here we go. Dave Letterfly, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. And tell everybody, you're a traveling artist. Tell everybody what you do and where you are right now.
I travel the summer months between Philadelphia and Chicago. I'm at a different Harley-Davidson store every week, and I decorate motorcycles the old-fashioned way by hand with paint. I typically do what they call pinstriping to decorate motorcycles.
All right. What exactly is pinstriping?
Pinstriping is the old traditional finishing touch. It started back in the wagon and carriage building era when teams of proud tradesmen built vehicles one at a time. This was before the assembly line was invented. And the finishing touch, the way that they showed off that all of the joints were accurately fitted together, they would paint a thin line over all of the joints to show off that their joints were tight. And that was the finishing touch. And pinstriping followed into the automobile building trade, and there was actually a pinstriper on the assembly line for Model A's. They got a body line that went around and it was the finishing touch that established high quality. Yeah.
And so everybody knew you had literally seamless design, seamless manufacturing.
Yeah. Because if there was a wobble in between the body panels, the stripe would have a blob where it, where it had to do. So it was just a way of demonstrating high quality.
So in other words, like the original form of quality control.
Yeah, there you go. And it probably went back hundreds of years. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it went back to chariot building days during the Roman Empire. I don't know.
I don't know. Those wagons were probably a little rickety, so if you pinstriped them, one line might be a half inch above the other.
Yeah.
And so maybe you've done a lot of different painting. I mean, I know you've done hand sign painting, airbrushing, gold leaf gilding. I mean, what's the difference between all of them?
Well, there are specialties in the trade. And see, I started as a sign painter, and in the sign painting trade, there are a vast array of specialties that include not only pleasant composition and letter form, but actually conveying a personality through the use of graphic devices and imagery and stuff. And then among the sign painters are the pictorial artists, the ones who specialized in floral decor or Victorian scroll work or any kind of image that you can imagine. My great-grandfather was a fine artist who had a crew of men, and they went around and decorated the interiors of the Lowe's theaters all over the country with flowers and sceneries and all kinds of stuff. And so it's a proud creative trade, and I've had to evolve during my career because technology arrived on the sign painting scene in the middle 80s, and it forced me to evolve because the computer took over that game, and it forced me to evolve. I was fortunate enough to find a big market for putting airbrushed murals on motorhomes, and that was a fad that was just starting in the middle 80s. And I rode that wave for 20 years, and then technology came right along they took the labor out of full body paint jobs and they started printing digital wraps. And so I had to evolve again. And I'm proud to say that I'm still doing things by hand with paint. I'm almost a dinosaur.
Wow. And so you're in PA right now?
Pennsylvania right now. I just left. I spent the month of August in Michigan. Now I'm in Pennsylvania, And from here, I go to Maryland. I'll start zigzagging my way south as the trees turn color and it starts to get a little cooler. I love being north in the summer and south in the winter.
Me too. You, me, and millions of other people.
Yeah.
You're no dummy. And so how many states have you done painting in? I'm sure you've kept track.
Oh, during my entire career, about 32 states.
32 states. All right.
Yeah.
Have you do you how far west do you make it generally?
I have painted in California. A
Yeah.
couple flew me out there to put a bunch of paintings on their big fancy motorhome.
Wow.
And but yeah, most of my career I've been on this half of the country, even though I have crossed the Mississippi River and but the states I have not been to are all up in the Northwest.
So tell us about your rig and how you travel. We were talking earlier, you've got a VW bus with Jimi Hendrix on the side.
That's for sure. I've been working out of VW buses my entire career. I discovered the or I noticed a VW bus whenever I was hitchhiking as a teenager, and I immediately recognized the value of the vehicle. It was small. You could put almost everything in it. You had plenty of room for your dog and your girlfriend and everything. And the very first one I had a little sink in it, a little bunk in it, and a little
That's right.
roof that went up in the air. And it was like the perfect way for me to combine living an adventure with what I like to do, which is create artwork. And it gave me the ability to pretty much go anywhere I wanted to go and find work.
Yeah. And then you've got and that's attached to an RV.
But yeah, today, yeah, I have a big truck. It used to be an old over the road tractor. I modified it and got it registered as a motorhome and a big fifth wheel travel trailer. And there's a hitch on the back. There's a tow bar on the front of the VW bus. I tow it behind the trailer. So I'm hauling doubles.
Nice. Okay. And the VW bus, how's the engine? How's it running?
Runs like a top.
Oh, that's
It,
great.
yeah, this bus, I have four of them, and this one is my favorite one. And it's in tip top shape. And it doesn't get any engine miles because I drag it all over the
Right.
country. The
Right.
only thing I use it for is to drive to breakfast or go to the laundromat.
Right. Right.
The rest of the time it's on display. It's a shtick. I got it all decorated up like you mentioned before with
Right. Right. Okay.
all kinds of
Yeah.
hippie stuff all over it.
Yeah, I mean, they're great vehicles, and they don't have the reputation for, necessarily going 85 miles an hour for
No, not
yeah.
not necessarily, but this one is a little bit more modern than those. The
Okay,
early ones only had like a 45 horse motor that was not really the most dependable,
right.
and you didn't have heat or air
Wow,
conditioning. Yeah. So, but this one that I drive now is 1978. And by that
okay,
time, the VW was putting the Porsche pancake motor in it with fuel injection. So it's
nice.
compared to its ancestors, it'll scoot.
Right, that's good to hear. So tell us, I mean, you've done all this work for motorcycles and motor homes. I mean, what are your favorite, particularly, and I guess you're not doing as much of those designs now, but what are your favorite designs to do? What have you, what do you feel is overdone, and where do you feel people would go?
Well, it's kind of interesting. The decoration of virtually everything is evolving. So even though my market share continues to grow because people that do things by hand are becoming quite rare, there are alternatives today that people can use to decorate their motorcycle thanks to the computer and heaven only knows there are things like they got printers that can make parts today.
Right,
So
with 3D
there's
print.
you have lots of options today.
Yeah,
You can what do they call it? Water transfer. There's printers that can print on curved surfaces. You can certainly get a wrap or or decorate it with vinyl or any
Right.
number of things. So where I come in is when it's time for a one up design. When the customer comes to me and says, "Hey, I want, my name with an hourglass. That's my special thing." And because of my vast experience drawing and painting all images for over 50 years, it just takes me it takes me less time to draw the image than it would be to go to the computer, look it up, resize the image, print it out, bring it back and trace it. It's easier for me to just draw it.
Right, right. I
And
love it.
because I've started drawing as a kid, I became pretty good at it. I can pretty much hold a photograph of your dog in my hand and
Wow.
draw it on the motorcycle fender.
And I mean, how long did it take you to get to that place where you felt like you could do that?
Well, it's never been about feeling that I was ready to do it as much as I would put myself in the position to find the opportunity and do it whether I was ready or not. That's how it all started,
Right.
you know? It's like
Fake it till you make it.
build it and they will come.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And I've
Yeah.
been just intensely creative. It's like doing artwork is only one part of the interesting life that I've had the opportunity to live. I started as a musician, played the drums in a show band on a traveling circus, accenting the actions of the performers. When the ladies would climb the rope to go up to the aerial rigging and they'd kick their leg out, I gave them a rim shot to accent that thing, and then heighten the tension of the daredevil about ready to do his thing, give him a drum roll, and then so yeah, it was a very fascinating way to apply musical skills to like performing art. And then I evolved into a horse trainer. I became fascinated with training horses. And the whole time I was always painting. I used my skills as a sign painter to finance my passion as a horseman, traveling all the time. I love to travel, and that was a great way to put myself in the proximity of the horsemanship mentors I wanted to study under. So, yeah, it's always been just a means to an end, I guess you'd say.
And how many months out of the year are you on the road?
I've got a 7-month route. I
Uh,
leave Florida when the temperature goes over 90, and I return to Florida when the temperature comes back under 90.
Smart man. Wow, that's the way to do it. And
It
so
really
I
is.
so I presume we're talking basically April to
A-
November?
yeah, April to November. That's exactly right.
Wow. Wow. And I mean, what's it like living that sort of lifestyle? I mean, in terms of relationships and, having a house that, sits empty for a few months out of the year. How do you manage all the logistics of just, you're managing yourself, your life and relationships, all of it?
I've got a girl in the office that puts in about a half a week. She puts in about 20 hours every week, and her job is to like keep me out of trouble and make sure all the I's get dotted and the T's get crossed. And another person who takes care of the yard. But how is life on the road? I happen to love my life on the road, and every destination. I've been going to a lot of these Harley Davidson stores for years. And so every week I'm looking forward to seeing my old friends
Oh, that's great.
that I get to see every year when I get there. I've got special friends that like last week I was in north of Philadelphia, and a friend of mine over in New Jersey contacted me. He says, "Hey, Dave, I'm coming over to take you out to dinner tonight." You know? And
Hey,
so, and we probably go back 15 years. He's visited
wow.
me at my home, and he's an adventurous soul too. He takes
Yeah.
his motorcycle and used it to go all over country, and him and his wife travel the world and all that kind of stuff. So we're kindred souls,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we get together when we can.
How have you felt the road has evolved in the last 50 years? I mean, you talked in the book about hitchhiking. You really just don't see that much anymore.
Oh, it's a different era now. That
Yeah.
now that social engineering has heightened fear, there's like a distancing that has taken place between people. And COVID kind of
Oh,
punctuated that when they insisted that everybody stay away from each other.
right.
And it's kind of sad because back when I was growing up and I was a teenager, if you wanted to get to the other side of the country, you just stood on the side of the road and you put your thumb up. And the first thing you met was somebody else who had hitchhiked in their past, and now they had a vehicle. Come
Yeah.
on, let's go.
Yeah.
And so it was like a brotherhood. There was it was a way to connect. And I think that's one of the most valuable things about my life on the road is there are so many opportunities to connect with other people,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially in when I'm involved in my service to them, creating a one of a kind piece of artwork. It requires me conducting an interview so I can find out what it is that they is going to make them happy, and then transforming their vision into something tangible, and then I get to see the reaction on their face, as I complete the project. It's a
So how does
bonding
that
experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And how does that interview go? Because basically you're making custom pieces for everybody. Like because some people know exactly what they want. Other people need to be kind of held by the hand.
That's exactly right. There are people that come to me that have a clear idea about what they want. There are other people that don't know what they want. They just know they want something. And then there are other people that they have a bad idea about something to put on their bike. And it's my responsibility to guide them over here to so we can get involved in doing something that's going to end up being a good thing to put on their bike.
So walk us through maybe like a bad idea and how you get to where it's a better idea.
Well, I think that there are a lot of people that just don't know how to talk or visualize something, and they get caught up in the kind of patter that takes place between, like barroom talk.
Yeah.
And they'll start bragging about what would look cool on their bike or something, but it isn't necessarily being well thought out,
Right.
and it's kind of an ambiguous idea at best. And instead of me trying to pay attention to something that's probably not going to end up being something that's going to work, because see, that's the thing. Whenever I take elements and combine them into a design, there's there's a way to make it work. The other day I had a design to do for a lady. It was three crosses, a large central cross flanked by two smaller sized crosses to commemorate the crucifixion with the two thieves on either side of the crosses. And the lady simply said, "Could you make it wider?" Well, the way the design worked, it wouldn't, it, if I attempted to follow her suggestion, it would have made it so the design didn't work anymore, meaning you wouldn't have been able to glance at it and appreciate the design of three crosses. It would have
Right.
been a single cross and maybe a goal post behind it.
Gotcha.
And,
Okay.
so there are times where people have ideas, but because they don't have the vast experience that I have, those are the people I have to guide.
Yeah.
And usually when I take the time to educate them in regards to what it is that makes up a good design, I end up creating a customer who is knowledgeable and will become a savvy buyer of good designs. So there's always an upside to educating your customer.
Yeah. And you said you like fussy customers. I guess if you wouldn't have fussy people, you wouldn't have people wanting to do custom stuff.
Well, that's the thing. The people who are fussy customers are the ones that are finding me because I do accurate work.
Yeah.
So why would I start belly aching about, a person being fussy about the work? Just say, sure, my policy is I'm going to keep painting until you're happy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with, I don't know, mistakes or somebody not being happy? Like, can you just paint it over? Like,
Well, it actually, what happens with a motorcycle, if I make a mistake on the motorcycle, we have to take the motorcycle and go throw it in the dumpster, and then they have to go in the store and buy a new one. No, seriously, we're dealing with paint.
Yeah.
So if I make a mistake, I simply wipe it off. The other day, I put a dog print on the top of a motorcycle, and the lady and her husband were in a big hurry to get going, and she dragged her leg through it,
Uh,
getting on it to go away, and she felt really bad. So, and it's not a problem, even if it's a full day later, it's still not a problem to wipe it off and do it again because we're dealing with paint here.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's nice. I mean, I guess you're not sculpting marble or, something where it's like you got to
yeah,
start over.
yeah. Go get another 5-ton block of marble.
I mean, any designs that you've refused to do?
Oh yeah, yeah. There are designs that I don't necessarily consider to be in good taste, and
Right.
I don't want to see my name associated with something like that. So there are
Yeah.
things that I'll refuse to do.
How does that work out?
Works out just fine.
Yeah, you haven't had any issues with that or,
No, uh-uh.
well, that's good to hear. You
And
talked
there
a
are and there are customers that I can have what do you call it? An intuitive hunch
mm,
about
spidey sense.
that I'll encourage them to find somebody else to do their work.
Yeah, yeah. What talking about that intuition and, has it developed, evolved, heightened over your time, on the road? Because you are, even though you're seeing people that you see year after year, you're still going to strange places. You're not home, you're on your own.
It's like living an adventure, and I thrive on adventure. And I've selected this lifestyle. Now it's kind of interesting that as a child, see, I was influenced by the family that I grew up in. My older brother had a condition that made him produce bizarre behavior, which all that did was attract all the kids in the neighborhood to start teasing him mercilessly.
Oh,
And I watched that behavior and I became reclusive and withdrawn, which probably has a lot to do with the level of ability that I created as an artist because I was more inclined to be left alone away from people. But then I was thrust into a situation where, as an artist, I need a steady stream of new customers.
right.
So I had to evolve, I guess you'd say. And
Yeah.
then with the process of recovery from alcoholism, I was introduced to the solution, which also has to do with me entering into a practical relationship with others and especially with the higher power. So
Yeah.
the reclusive child ended up becoming a people person with a service mentality. So I went from one extreme to another.
Wow. Wow. Do you
That
think
all
do you think quitting alcohol had something to do with that?
Oh yeah, it had a huge amount of in regards to my personal and spiritual growth. Definitely. Yeah.
How long you been sober?
37 years.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. It's given me a completely different life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you save a lot of money too, and your health.
That's for sure. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
you talked about in the book surviving the shysters. You got a top 10 list for that. I mean, maybe you can tell some of your experiences with people who have been less than upfront with you and, how to deal with it.
I think that I'm at a disadvantage because I was raised in a in a home, a preacher's kid with a mother who was an opera singer, taught to be honest and stand up and all that kind of stuff. And because I have the basic belief that other people are as honest and upright as I am, I end up being real easy to take advantage of. And there's been a whole series of those, whether it's and it involves virtually everything, whether it's
Yeah.
not just shysters that are uh, you know running rackets, but even with the with first responders and service providers and people and tire people and even big companies like Sam's Club and the highway patrol and the judicial system. There are lots of shysters all over the entire population,
Yeah.
and it becomes difficult to discern, when you have the naive attitude that people in authority are supposed to be as wise as King Solomon and 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 deliver what it is that's right. But the truth of the matter is, all these people were affected by things that were different than what I was affected by as a child. And that influences the way that they behave, the way that they think about themselves, the big egotistical, narcissistic people that just don't care about the outcome of a transaction.
Right.
And it just makes it a challenge to continue to be benevolent and be appropriate. And that's where the spiritual growth has helped me a lot, because
Yeah.
forgiveness for a lot of these transactions that have taken place is what gives me the ability to continue to continue to grow and love and let go and do all of the things that give me the ability to stay at peace and remain dedicated to my purpose, which is to be a blessing to others and not be soured by it.
Right, right, and, I mean, that's happened to me in certain situations. You catch yourself, and you can become
Yeah.
jaded, and,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and it's too easy, but I think having that forgiveness is
Yeah.
it's such an important attribute.
Yeah. And who am I to say that that transaction gone sour might be there might just end up being some kind of a domino effect taking place in that person's life that's going to end up getting them to the same place I had to get to in
Right.
order for me to reach out for the help I needed to change the trajectory of my life.
Yeah, yeah. You had talked about something that I thought was really interesting. You had talked about working at these Harley Davidson dealerships, and you could tell how good the managers are just by walking out back and to the kid washing down the bikes and, seeing what hit is
Exactly.
at it. I mean, I've noticed that myself.
Of course, yeah. If you want to see the health of the management, go talk to the guy in the back that's washing bikes,
Yeah.
and his attitude will tell you all about the attitude upstairs.
Right. Is he
It
being kicked
trickles down.
down? Absolutely. I've seen
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's so
Yep,
true. It's so true. And you've talked about these relationships, and I think it sounds like one of the reasons you've been so successful is that you've got this long-term thinking, knowing that you're gonna come back and you wanna do right, because if you do right, you're gonna be invited back to a dealership or, whatever, state fair. Has that rung true for you?
definitely. Yeah, what I am doing is I'm building a reputation based on integrity and
Yeah.
quality and doing something a little bit better than the rest of my peers are doing in an effort to be the top selection for the discerning buyer.
Right, right. And so how do you keep steady with your hands? I mean, that's always the most fascinating thing to me as a pinstriper. You've gotta have that steady
Yeah.
hand. I mean, it's just delicate. That would make me nervous.
It requires remaining at peace and watching my coffee consumption.
Yeah, right, right, right,
Definitely, yeah.
right. I mean, so if you were to have 2 cups of coffee, it would be visible in your pinstriping, let's say. Wow.
It would, it would make it difficult.
Wow.
I don't know if
Okay.
it would be impossible, but yeah, it
Right.
would make it so, "Oh, no, what did I do?" So I always stop at 1.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean that's the thing though. As a traveler who's driving around, coffee is often an essential element for
Yeah,
staying awake and staying safe, and it has the opposite effect on the work that you do that it can screw
uh-huh.
things up. So
Yeah,
you got
definitely,
you got to
yeah.
time your coffee consumption very carefully. It sounds
Yeah,
like.
yeah. Yeah, and then make peace the priority.
Yeah, yeah. So talk about that and, like, I mean, when did you learn to make peace the priority? Like, what was your evolution in getting to this place of, like, almost feels like a personal zen to me.
I think that as a child, because my brother had he produced that bizarre behavior. They didn't have a
Yeah,
name for it now. They now know
yeah,
they call it Asperger's. It's a
right,
high functioning form of autism. And all that did was make me angry. It was frustrating to live with. And I was a child that was filled with anger. And so that's probably what set me up for alcohol consumption to be medicinal,
right,
which probably paved the way for me to become addicted to alcohol.
right.
And so the solution, the way that the 12 steps of AA work is there's like a a process of unbuilding where go and you look at what drove the behavior, what influenced the belief system that you acquired and all of these kinds of things, and then what emotions are driving your actions. Well, I was an angry kid, and so one of the things I did in the process of recovery was I had to address my anger issues.
Yeah,
And once I was on the other side of the anger, and I realized how valuable peace and serenity and joy and happiness was, it became priority.
yeah.
And I my sister was also an angry. She grew up right next to me in that frustrating situation, but she never got recovery from her anger, and that anger manifested itself in her heart
Oh,
and grew a great big giant mass of cancer in her
oh,
chest. And she
yeah.
was dead at 59 because
Wow.
she did not process that anger you know, because she didn't have the process that we have at AA.
Right,
And so
right.
that her witness in regards to the consequence of uh, of keeping that anger inside made it very, very easy for me to let go and forgive.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel that part of stoicism may be a part of that? I've been reading a little bit about stoicism, which, from my understanding of it, and what I keep trying to tell myself is only worry about the things that you have control over, and don't let the things you don't have control over, take over your life or drive you crazy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We we call that worry about what's in your hula hoop.
Okay. I hadn't heard that one before. That
Oh,
definitely sounds like a circus.
yeah. So yeah, is it inside your hula hoop or outside your hula hoop?
Yeah,
Yeah. Th
yeah.
that yeah,
So let's turn to a tough subject and talking about this resilience and forgiveness. Your RV caught fire a couple years ago.
definitely. Yeah. 5 years ago, at the beginning of when I was able to hit the road during COVID.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I had a horrible experience with that. Well, it's devastating enough to lose everything you own, but the
yeah.
reception of the first responders was even more devastating.
Oh my goodness, what happened?
The highway patrol and the fire department and the medical people that showed up on the scene were they were indifferent, inappropriate. They certainly weren't helpful. And as soon as and I got the feeling that I was being manipulated to leave the scene. I had burns on my arms and
Yeah.
my, upper body because I had rescued a computer out of the burning trailer and stuff. And the medical team, what do you call it? The
Paramedics,
yeah, they didn't
EMT.
Yeah, they didn't wanna treat my burns because that would have required them to fill out paperwork and make a mess in the ambulance, so they encouraged me to go to the hospital,
Mhm.
and then while I was gone, the first responders and the fire was out, they went ahead and helped themselves to the valuables that were
Ugh.
on display and on the charred remains of the trailer, which made it, certainly made it worse. I had valuables that would have been salvageable,
Yeah.
but I didn't have, they got to them first. And then the wrecker company, they put the carcass in their compound and would not let me come and salvage my property from the wreckage until 3 weeks later when they took it to the junkyard, and then those people let me come, and it had obviously been pilfered through.
Yeah.
And then even the judicial system, I tried to use the judicial system to retrieve the value of what had been taken from me by the combination of the first responders, and the judicial system was just as corrupt.
Hmm.
They said the judge admitted it was wrong what they had done, but there's a statute of the law that protects them from responsibility, and which is pretty much a license to steal. They all know that that's in effect. So it was just it was de- it was a double devastation
Yeah.
finding that out about these people in authority that I was taught to respect when I was a kid
Where was this?
in St. Augustine.
In Florida, so not too
Yeah,
far from home.
I was 4 hours from home.
Oh, man. And so your philosophy, your teachings, how were you able to, approach that incident and, learn from it in some way, move beyond it? I don't know.
It has to do with attitude when we end up realizing that there was a reason for my going through that experience, and it was for the sake of my spiritual growth, you know, ending up making these discoveries and having this devastation, and it put me in touch. I'll tell you what it put me in touch with. It changed my relationship with material things.
Yeah. Yeah.
because all of a sudden everything was gone, so it was like it changed it. It made it very, very easy today for me to, there's a lot of things I just haven't replaced. And my goal now is to downsize and have even less stuff,
Wow.
become
I
more of a minimalist.
I had a friend who was renting an apartment at the time, and there was a serious mold issue.
Uh-huh.
And he had a huge book collection, and he had to get, he had major health problems because of it, which he's now
Yeah.
thankfully recovered, but he had to get rid of all of his books. And so he was talking about in a similar situation on how
Yeah.
his 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 response to the material world
Yeah.
shifted because of that. For the
Yeah.
better. For the better.
Definitely. So, yeah. Who am I to say that that was the worst thing that I ever went through?
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And so
Who do I think I am anyway?
yeah, man, I would be devastated, and I hope if something, like that were to happen, then again, it's stuff, and you don't wanna trivialize it, but it's stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean,
It's
you got hurt, you had some burns, but you only got hurt because you were getting stuff anyway.
I was rescuing my computer, which had all my books on it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was kind of important. So yeah.
Kind of. Kind of.
Yeah.
Well, you have this new book out, and you've talked about your 7 inspired principles, and I'm not gonna quiz you on them, but maybe we could talk about some of the top principles that come to your mind that stand out.
That book was actually inspired by one of my customers. One of my customers said, "Dave, you are living the dream, traveling the country in your RV, doing what you love, making people happy with what you do. You should write a book on how to do it." So I did. I wrote the book called Hit the Road and Thrive: 7 Secrets for Living the Dream. And I've also created a place for all of your listeners to get a free download of the book at a website called daveletterfly.com. So they can all go get the book for free.
Nice.
And I did not, my daddy was a minister, but I'm not necessary. I was kind of damaged a little bit by the church. So I did not want to sound preachy. And I certainly didn't want to sound like an AA guy, because people that don't understand that fellowship, have their typical attitude about that fellowship. I didn't
Mhm.
want to sound like that, but I took principles and psychology and kind of blended them together into what I call a practical guide for improving the life that you live. And it has to do with attitudes and beliefs and and behaviors and relationships, all of the things that I've been learning on this spiritual walk.
You talked about one of them, passing the baton on to others.
Definitely. The
What does that mean?
the what happens at one point in your life, see, at the beginning of our career, we learn, learn, learn. We accumulate. We want to get as much as we can in order to become more valuable. But then as we mature, we end up coming to the point where all of this stuff that I have is is of benefit to other people, especially the young people who are coming up and just now accumulating what it is that they need to thrive during the life that they create for themselves. So there's a point where the teacher wants to pass along the information. That's what I meant by pass the baton on to the next generation. And so, and that's really what my life has become all about now that I'm in my golden years, is sharing what was so freely given to me during my pursuit of all of these creative activities that I've involved myself in
Yeah.
throughout my career. I want to be able to be a blessing to other people. And that's really what drives me to get up early every morning and sit down and get some writing done. I typically write about 2 hours every morning
Really?
before my workday starts.
Wow. So
And
what do you
the
what are you
motive
working on?
is I've got two books right now. One of them is a love story, has to do with the third horse that I had that I trained. I started with as a baby, trained him all the way to an award-winning circus performing horse. And then he accompanied me all the way to the end of my performing career when I'd haven't had enough and became resident artist. It became much more lucrative and it became a no-brainer to stop doing that, all the way to the point to the end of his life where I had to make the decision to put him down. So it's a complete love story that that walks the reader through not only my relationship with the horse, but especially my relationship with my surroundings. The name of the book is Red Sorrel on the Road Home. And because I also have a relationship with the road that is threaded throughout this book. And I ended up finding the home in that I have in Florida, but the book doesn't end there. The book ends with me launching myself back on the road again. And then the reader gets the payoff in regards to the concept of home not necessarily being a physical place, but more of a belief in yourself and an attitude of belonging wherever it is that we are.
Yeah.
And then the other book that I'm working on right now has to do with my older brother. I got inspired that I should write about my perspective growing up as the younger brother of a neurodivergent child and how frustrating it was for the sake of people out there who might also be in frustrating situations that they don't know that there's a way out. So it goes from me being a little kid that hates his older brother all the way through the process of forgiveness and acceptance and love. And I don't have the conclusion figured out yet, so it's still under construction. And I actually invited my brother to participate,
Wonderful.
to
That
give
was my next
his
question.
to put his perspective,
Yeah.
because the Asperger's people don't have that same wiring that we have.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a clue in regards to what's socially appropriate,
Yeah.
and it'll be interesting to get his perspective included in the book, so that perhaps that will be end up being a revelatory to the reader.
And how long did it take you to get there with your brother?
To get to through the forgiveness and love and acceptance and stuff,
Yeah.
that's only relatively recent,
Wow.
maybe the last 20 years.
Okay. Well, recent, all relative, 20 years seems like a long time to me, but I mean, that's great that you've had those 20 years where you've been able to appreciate things in a
Yeah, I
different
think
way.
my relationship with bullies has changed, because at the
Yeah.
beginning I blamed him for the behavior of the bullies. But
Really?
now I believe that the bullies they got their own issues. That's why they're
Oh, yeah.
bullies.
Yeah.
And my brother was just my brother. He just not wired the same way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so part of it was letting go of the beliefs that I had accumulated in order to make room for a new set of beliefs. Definitely. So that's going to be an exciting, and it certainly be cathartic.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, 20 years in the making, so I'm glad you're
Yeah.
on it.
I'm
So what
on it.
would your
Yeah.
what would your advice be for, I mean, we have all these people now, van life, and, they're traveling across the country, living out of their vans. What's your advice to people who are considering taking up the traveling lifestyle?
Well, I've covered that in the book, Hit the Road and Thrive, because a lot of people who have never hit the road use the mentality of belonging to a community. They have, when somebody's lived in the same town their entire life, they have a particular way of relating to their surroundings.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really work when you enter into new territory where you've never been before. Needs to be a shift in the attitude. And I
Mhm.
cover that in the book because you're an adventurer instead of stuck in a routine. And it requires not only remaining on the lookout, but especially acute curiosity
Yeah.
in order to assess your surroundings and make the selections that are going to end up becoming good decision making in regards to, and then there's certainly the relational aspect too, learning how to uh, connect with other people. And that requires a proactive sense of belonging. Even though when you land in some place you've never been before, why would you have the sense of belonging? Well, you carry that sense of belonging inside into the new situation. So yeah,
Gotcha.
those are all of the little tidbits that I've included in the book, and I'd love for people to, get the book, read the book, and then have their life positively influenced as the result.
Do you feel that when you're home over the winter months in November and December into the new year, that your brain changes because you're not used to having it exercise in the same way as you do every day on the road?
I actually go through grief when I get home.
Wow.
I Because I'm coming in off the road, and on the road it's a week. I'm 1 week in every location. That's constant stimulation
Yeah.
and fresh relationships ongoingly. I get home, I'm lonely,
Yeah.
you know? There's a great big old I love my home. I got a big workshop in the back. I can go build something, and I got all my vehicles are there, and I got a lovely, gardening, and there's all kinds of projects to do, get the
Oh,
garden
yeah.
going for the winter and all that stuff. But it's different. So
Yeah.
i- you know, so I go through grief initially. Yes, when you get home, you discover all the stuff that got broken over the summer. The hurricane knocked a tree over or something, and
Right.
I got all this cleanup to do. So that adds to the grief. But then once I'm there for a while, I start being in love with having my home. Now I'm spending part of my daydreaming calculating the creation of a special place just for myself in my home, like a little man cave type corner or something, just to make something special.
Yeah.
So yeah, to probably as in an effort to overcome that tendency,
Sure. Sure.
maybe I'll
I
create a little studio so I can stay in touch with people like you.
Yes, yes, indeed. I mean, but it sounds like it's almost like a rush, a drug in many respects, connecting and having new adventures and new
Uh-huh.
experiences.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, not to say that it's free, but it's certainly free of the demons that come with substances.
Uh-huh. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
So, any final thoughts for people listening? You've got just so much wisdom. Would love to hear.
There is there is a zen of the highway, and and I want you to get it. I want everybody to get this, and it has to do with our attitude, our coming into perfect alignment with, the energy and the belief systems, the engagement of the different sections of the thinking and the rationale and the reasoning and the creativity all taking place in some kind of practical harmony that will optimize the experience that you have when you set out and step forward in towards something that's an unknown.
Yeah.
And it's not something, and typically a lot of people will fear making change. But
Yeah.
I've made an entire life about stepping into the unknown. And it's been an incredible journey. And now I'm dedicated in regards to helping other people find what I have found.
You had wrote something when a person does something they don't want to do, new territory, the brain is fully engaged, the adventurer feels truly alive.
Definitely, yeah, just think about it. When you're going into something that's an unknown, your heart pounds faster so that it's pumping blood that might be needed in case a tiger jumps on you and you need to run,
Yeah.
the old
Fight or flight.
fight or flight, yeah. And your breathing increases so that you got more oxygen in your system so that your brain can process things faster just in case. And that's where the fully engaged, all of these facets of your body are fully engaged because you're right at the brink of something that you've never experienced before. And so that there's like a thrill that takes place.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm referring to in regards to feeling fully alive
Yeah.
as the result of, going on that adventure.
I've often heard it that you should run towards the things that make you feel uncomfortable because that's where the most growth is going to be, and not to do the things that are always the most comfortable.
That's exactly right. Comfort is overrated
Yeah.
because if we're going to go towards the comfortable, the everything deteriorates. You know, they s- the- in I forget which one, but in some realm of the spirituality, they talk about the enlightened go toward the heat
Wow.
instead of away from the heat or the pain.
Right.
Instead of going away from the pain, they go toward the pain because going through the pain is where the growth takes place.
Right.
When we face our monsters, when we become familiar with the things that kept us separated, when we embrace those parts of us that were so belligerent that it promoted our suffering, when we go towards those things, we have we got a chance in regards to becoming more familiar with them and and doing something proactive about typically discarding them and learning the lesson that awaits. It's just like going through that devastating fire we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's to say that's the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life? Because what are the things that I learned? I'm probably a little bit more in tune to the reality instead of having a naive belief about people in authority.
Yeah.
And I have a different relationship with physical things.
Yeah.
So all that, and it's changed my relationship with things that, you know, things that, people as a rule do not like change,
Yeah. Yeah.
but change is inevitable,
It sure is.
whether you whether you avoid it or embrace it.
I mean, embracing change is usually a lot more proactive and a lot less painful than having change come to you and having it come to you many years down the road in a much more painful way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always been my philosophy is take it head on rather than,
Yeah.
die of 1,000 cuts.
Yeah. There you
I mean
go.
that's been my thing. But, I mean, we talked about the material thing and passing on the baton to others, and I mean, I guess that yeah, stuff doesn't really give you a sense of immortality in the way that teaching does.
I've been, I've been in an effort to leave a legacy. While I've been downsizing, I've been finding things that are valuable that would be appreciated by like a museum. And I've been spending my money putting stuff in museums.
Oh,
My
that's great.
all of the photographs of all of the murals that I put on the backs of motorhomes are part of a display at the RV Museum in Elkhart, Indiana. And I created
Wow.
a little display that explains that short fad that took place in the RV industry. I donated my old t-shirt painting booth I put up at the county fairs back in the 70s and 80s to the Carnival Museum. I just sent a video to the American Mule Museum of the
Wow.
circus act that I did with my little mule. And then I created, in an effort to pay homage to where my circus career started in Jackson County, Indiana, I created a display piece that tells the stories of elephants in Jackson County, Indiana. A lot of people would have never known that there were elephants in the county history. And I'm doing that ongoingly. It's just like with my books. I'm I I see a library, I'll stop and donate a set of my books
Wow.
just because I think it's part legacy. Plus, I wrote the things to benefit the reader.
Right. You want
So I'm
somebody to
I'm
read it.
certainly interested in having them read the books. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Where's the Carnival Museum?
In Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
That's kind of a labor of love because here I've got sign painting in my background, and that's a feature that they are quick to embrace. They have the old antique searchlights that were left over from World War II that they used on the midways back in the 50s. Back in those days, they were hand lettered. So when they restored them, they needed to be hand lettered in the traditional fashion. So they appreciated my stepping forward and volunteering my lettering skills.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's a cool place.
Well, Dave Letterfly, the book is called Hit the Road and Thrive. How can people find out more about you?
About me, you can go to
Yes.
the letterfly.com website and you
There
can
you
learn
go.
all about the art that I create, the speaking that I do as a speaker and a guest on podcasts and that kind of thing. Plus, you can read about my books. I've got 5 published right now and several more in the works. I just love writing and I'd love to hear from everybody. Plus, I want you to tell all your viewers to get the free download of Hit the Road and Thrive at the other
Do it.
website called daveletterfly.com.
All right. Everybody, you heard it. You heard it here.
Yeah.
Do it. DaveLetterfly.com. Dave Letterfly, the man. It's been a pleasure, and I hope that people listening at home, and I certainly will absorb some of your philosophy and will embrace it as part of their own life,
Oh, good.
wherever travels may take them. So, David, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Mark.
All Across America is produced by me, Marco Vig, in Ridgefield, Connecticut. Visit us on Instagram at All Across America. Check out our website, allacrossamerica.com. There's an interactive map with all our episodes, and there's a Contact Us page where you can send your reactions, guest ideas, and suggestions. So get in touch, stay connected. To me, that's what podcasting is all about. Thanks for listening.